Hi everyone. So most of us have seen a colour wheel before, a classic circle showing how red, yellow and blue mix together. But here's the thing, that kind of wheel doesn't really tell you what happens with watercolours. What do I mean? So here's a normal colour wheel. I use this a lot. So let's choose a colour. So we've got yellow. If you add yellow, you're going to get yellow. So if we then move the colour wheel round, if you add yellow to blue, you're going to get green. But there are other things on this wheel. If you add white to yellow, you're going to get this pale yellow. Already starting to think, where is the white on here? Well, of course there isn't white, because the white in watercolour is from your paper. So you don't add white, although you can, but not in the way of mixing up a paler colour. You add water. We go one more round, add black, and you get a dulled down yellow. Now, although you can add black in watercolour, in order to keep the nice clear colours, it's very often the case that you don't add black. You add a complementary colour, such as violet to yellow, to create a dark. On the back of the colour wheel, there are lots of different tones of colour and how you can mix them together with a complementary mix. So for instance, if you have a spring garden and you like daffodils, then the opposite colour to daffodil yellow is violet. So if you have flowers in the garden that are violet, they will really make the yellows shine. And that is a complementary colour. So if I spin this wheel round, point the complementary arrow to yellow, it will tell me that it's violet. But if you had blue flowers, like bluebells, they're just slightly off complement. And that's sometimes known as a split complement. So the yellow's there, it's not directly opposite. You could go for a red violet or a blue violet, and that will still give you a lovely effect with your yellow. I tend to use the larger colour wheels because I teach, but this is the size you probably would have if you have one at home. So again, the same thing applies. This is great. It's telling you though you can add white and black, and it doesn't really say much more than that. So how do we get round that? Guess what? You can buy a watercolour wheel. How exciting! Right, this is a large one. Let's have a little look and see what the differences are. So just get this one out of the way. So we'll start at the top, as we did before with the yellow and the yellow. So far, exactly the same. Add yellow to yellow, you get yellow. Let's add the blue. Add the blue. Blue and yellow makes green. Blue and yellow makes green. But you can see that it's looking slightly more like a piece of watercolour paper with a wash on it instead of a flat, like an acrylic green there. So that is really, really interesting. Now they do have black on here. So I'll just pop that one round. So if you add black to your yellow on the standard colour wheel, you get a dull yellow. And you get very similar here, where you've got the lovely effect on the paper. But instead of white, they have add water, because guess what? That's how you lighten a yellow, is to have more water so it can spread further across the page. So it's very, very similar, but it gets rid of the adding white bit, and also looking at very flat colours. These look a little bit more like you'd expect a watercolour to look. Looking at the back, it's very, very much the same story, except the colours look a little bit more like you would expect your watercolours to look, instead of these big flat blocks of colour. And after all, that's why we use watercolour, for those beautiful effects. And whilst this is not a watercolour wheel as in a painted one, it clearly has the textures to give you the impression that it is. So the back of them works exactly the same way. So in reality, the only difference is that instead of asking you to add white on the original, it's just asking you to add water to see the differences. So if I pick let's say a blue violet, which is a lot darker, let's add some water, and you're going to expect to see that sort of colour. And as you all know, watercolour is its own master, so therefore you could end up with all sorts of different ranges of that, because it depends how much water you add, depends how much pigment you had in the first place. So, but it gives you an idea, doesn't it? Whereas if I do the same thing on the original one, let's add some white to the, where are we, the blue violet. White to blue violet, there you go, same idea, a very different effect. So, do you need a watercolour wheel, or could you get away with a standard one, probably in this size? Well, of course you could. It's all about judging your colours, how they would work together across the back here, choosing a colour scheme. So let's say I wanted an accent of, it's autumn, so my accent would be red-orange. Let's look at that on the main one. So an accent of red-orange. Let's pop the main arrow straight up to red-orange. So that's my accent, it's autumn. So what options does it give me? Well, it's a reddy orange, isn't it? So it's obviously given me a split complementary of green, direct complementary of bluey green, because it's cool against the warm. And then you've got your blue as well. So you could have a blue sky with some lovely autumnal berries and a little bit of greenery, would give you the split complementary, which is what some of the recent paintings have actually had. So yes, that would absolutely work. But if you look at it on the back of the watercolour wheel, let's spin that round again to red-orange, exactly the same, but you just get a bit more of a feel for how they might look on your paper. With watercolours, some colours are transparent, some are granulating, some stain the paper, and all of that completely changes how your mixes turn out. So ultimately, the best sort of colour wheel is one you create yourself. So I'm going to do a really quick version here, and I've just got 2 blues, 2 reds and 2 yellows. Without going into too much detail, they're a warm and cool version of each. And I'm just going to show you quickly how we would throw a colour wheel together. I'll pop a link in the description, and I'll pop a card up into the link above here if you can see it, for a previous video on how to mix your own colour wheel with watercolour. So I'm going to start with the yellow at the top. And this is a very, very simple quick colour wheel. So let's just pop let me just think about this. So because I'm using a warm and cool version, the yellow at the top of the colour wheel is going to be the cool version, which is lemon yellow, like so. And then quickly followed by cadmium yellow, which is a yellow orange, already slightly warmer yellow, which you can probably see there. And then we're going to go to a little bit further around on the third of the colour wheel. We'd have a warm red, which is going to be cadmium red. You can make this up as you go along, really, you don't have to get this exactly right. And then coming away from that, we'll have the cool red. It's definitely not going to be a circle, is it? So the cool red is alizarin crimson. And then if I pop the yellow, which is the warm yellow, on top again, same colour as that one, but then I drop some warm red into it, cadmium red. Got a little bit of an orange there. And then I'll do the same thing, warm yellow, and then this time a little bit more cadmium red. So we're going to be a little bit redder orange on that one. So there's the red orange. And that's coming back round to this cadmium red here. So we've done the warm side of the colour wheel. We've got our cool yellow here. So we want to come over and do our blue. So our mid blue is going to be a sort of a neutralish blue. It's quite cool. This one I think is cobalt. Just get it a little bit brighter so you can see it. And then a red violet is a little bit of alizarin with a touch of ultramarine blue in it. As you can see, blue's much stronger. So that's our violet. Then the blue violet is ultramarine blue, coming round to there. We've hit our cool blue, our cobalt blue, or cerulean, or whichever one it is. Then we want to go a little bit bluer greenier. So how would we go from that? Well, we've got our yellow, we've got our red, and we've got our blue. So over here we need a green. So we would pop the cool yellow, which we've got there, into the space between the two. It's already gone slightly green because I still had a little bit of blue left. Now pop in the ultramarine. A little bit of green there. And then this one is the lemon yellow with slightly less ultramarine, but as you can see I've overdone that. So remember, just lift it off if it goes wrong. Nothing to worry about. Back to the lemon yellow. And then the tiniest bit of ultramarine blue into that. There it goes. So that's our yellow green. Then our green is there, and then our blue green is coming back round to this one here. So we're going to have the green that we've made here mix in with the blue. So it's a bluier green. So lots of yellow into that one and a cooler green. And there you go. So a very quick little colour wheel using just 3 primary colours, but I did use the warm and cool version. So have a go at doing that. If you're not sure and you don't have any sort of colour wheel, just look one up online so you can see it and follow the colours. But it's a lot easier if you've got a few colours, then you can match the colours up. So a blue violet is really already an ultramarine blue, and with the blue green is already going towards a cerulean blue. So you can play around with the colours you've got if you prefer, or you can mix them up from scratch. That's a good one. So then we have on our colour wheel, adding water, what does it do? So you can either use your colour wheel and pull the colour in, or if it's dried, like most of mine has, you can get yourself another piece of paper. The more you do this and play with your colours, honestly, the better it gets. You start to get a feel for your colours. So let's pop some yellow on. Just let it settle. Some more yellow. So I'm not doing a wheel this time, just pulling those colours around. Now get some clean water, and that has gone slightly greeny because I've contaminated my brush, but I'm adding water to get that a pale effect. And then let's do the same on this one. Just wash the paint down to get the thin, lovely wash that we come to love, that is called watercolour. Or sometimes you may not love it because it doesn't do what you want. But that's all part of its charm, really. Let's pop on the blues. Any piece of watercolour paper will do this job for you. A little bit of water, let's just pull that one down. Obviously you can see these better. So just bring in that nice pale wash. Get a feel, and there's the granulation, which always happens with ultramarine blue. It's one of the loveliest colours on there. There we go, so that's doing its thing. The more I tilt it, the more it will do it. I think that might be cerulean. If you're not sure what colours you've got in your palette because they've dried off and you've forgotten, just do what I'm doing, swatch them out. And after a while, you will start to realise that you know what the colour is because you swatched it out so many times. Suddenly you think, oh yeah, that looks like an alizarin crimson because it's a pinky red, whereas the other one must be a cadmium red because it looks like a postbox or a ladybird or a poppy. There we go. So we've done the same effect as if you were on the colour wheel dragging out with water, to just give you an idea what those colours will do. So you could do that on a much larger scale and drag the colours in to get that effect, and that makes a very, very nice homemade colour wheel. So in this video we've looked at a watercolour colour wheel and how you can make your own. That was a very quick demo, and so I will pop the link to a longer one for you. It's a game changer for your painting to understand that watercolour is not the same as a flat colour like acrylic. The whole point of watercolour is to add water and get these beautiful effects. If you found that helpful, please give it a like and let me know in the comments which colours surprised you most in your own wheel. Don't forget to subscribe for more watercolour tips and tutorials. I've got plenty more coming. Thanks for watching and happy painting everybody. See you soon. Bye for now.